Hi, the Open Cyclist here. I figured I'd give you a tour of my bike, my gear, and supplies for the upcoming trips. Let's get started. I'm riding a Bashetta Giro with an accompanying Burley Nomad trailer. The Nomad trailer has a top rack accessory. Uh, on the rack is a roller luggage carrier. And the tarp, I'm not sure how I'm going to work that yet. I wanted to load everything up to make sure that I've got the spaces I needed and my gear whittled down to what will fit. You'll see in the photos, I've got quite a bit of gear. Although I'm going to need to come back to Houston at least twice, at some point in the next couple of months or so, I'm pretty much going to be living on the road. So I don't want to have to do storage fees and stuff. And so I'm pretty much whittling it down to what I'll be doing during the year and a half or so of touring. And I figure once I resettle, I'll start accumulating stuff again. I wanted to give a shout out to the tires I'm using. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Schwab. I've been using these tires for many years. They have a liner that deflects a lot of stuff that would puncture normal tires. So I've been highly satisfied with these tires, and I wanted to make sure that my touring bike has these on them because riding around in the city has been much better with these tires. I've literally run over glass and other sharp debris and not wound up with punctured tires. So I'm very satisfied with these tires. They're a bit more expensive, but definitely worth the cost. The following pictures are samples of my supplies, but not comprehensive. About the time that I get ready to do this video, I think of more stuff to photograph. For instance, if you look at the portion of the recording that showed the dashboard on the handlebars, you may notice a air horn that I have. I also have a dog suppressant device, and I'm also not going to go into every camping supply element like shovel and that kind of stuff. As far as the horn and the dog device, I think I'll do some product specific videos on those because they've been really useful. But I just thought I would just note that regarding those and other supplies that I don't mention. You can probably think of a few things. So wait, you should carry this and you should carry that. I may very well be carrying them, but just didn't think to take the photos of them. So just take into account that I just wanted to go over some specific elements to illustrate how I'll be doing my traveling, but it's not comprehensive. I have two front-facing lights. The primary light on the handlebar is actually a flashlight using rechargeable batteries attached to the bike via a clamp mount. And there's a secondary light that is a modified headlamp that is rechargeable with a lithium ion battery. And my tail lights are a combination of things. The reflector actually has flashing lights running off again on rechargeable batteries, and I have another modified headlamp that has a red option, which is rechargeable using a lithium-ion battery. I also have a rectangular light which is mounted on the rack. So basically on the rear I have 3 lights. Figure safer is better. My primary bike camera is an Ion Air Pro. It came with a bicycle mount. I like this better than the GoPro for a couple of reasons. For one thing, the battery life is better in that with the GoPro and adjusted settings, I might get a couple of hours of time on the GoPro, whereas the Air Pro, I get like 5 hours of recording time, and it's much simpler to operate as well on the bike. Well, another reason, a third reason, is that it's easier to charge on the fly. On the front handlebar bag, I have a battery pack, and I can charge the laptop, not the laptop, the cell phone or this camera while I'm riding. So I like this camera very much, and much of the recordings that you see of my rides are from this camera. I have a Macaulay cell phone mount. It's available on Amazon. It's a very rugged mount. It's mostly metal with the rubberized portions where the cell phone fits in, and it screws in tightly, so there's not any chance that the cell phone falls out. And obviously that's there mainly for navigation purposes, but it also allows me to record myself on the bike nicely. Very adjustable. A good buy off of Amazon. I still occasionally find uses for the GoPro, so I have mounted that on my helmet, as you can see here. I find the battery life to be the disadvantage with the GoPro. The best I've gotten is probably around 2 hours. I do have 2 batteries and an external charger, but it's not as convenient to charge as the Ion. I will say that the cell phone connection is nice. That's why I have it mounted on the helmet. I can see what I'm recording via my cell phone. The Ion camera has that option, but it doesn't work as well as the GoPro. But the Ion is also easier to aim, so it works out well on mounted on the bike. But I still keep the GoPro for occasions where it's useful to use. I use my cell phone to listen to music and audiobooks and such when I'm stationary, but during long rides I use MP3 players. The ones I have each have battery capacity that lasts days. The one on the left is my primary one. It's a FiiO, spelled F-I-I-O. And the one on the right is, I'm just going to spell it, A-G-P-T-I-K. Unfortunately, they're both Chinese devices. I had very specific requirements when I was researching MP3 players. One big thing was I wanted to get devices that had very long battery lives, and as I said, both of these devices last days each. And I like to be able to have a lot of music on the SD card so I don't have to swap out music on a regular basis. So both these devices support 512 gigabyte SD cards. So yes, as far as cycling goes, there is still a place for MP3 players. They lessen the number of things which I need to simultaneously use my cell phone for while I'm writing. I prefer to use my cell phone while I'm writing primarily for navigation, and that limits the amount of battery usage, so my cell phone lasts longer. I've never really been big on music streaming, in large part because I'm very album oriented. I'm a major music collector, and I have the music organized in very specific ways to kind of get me in the zone while I'm doing stuff. So the MP3 players work out very well for how I organize and listen to my music. I, of course, need some external power banks and rechargers. Um, I thought about ordering some online because I could get higher capacity options compared to what's in the store. The highest that I found in stores are in the 20 some thousand range capacity. A couple of my devices are that high, but online I can get, 40, 50, 70,000 mAh power banks, powerful enough to run a laptop. But I figured for now I'll use what I have. Some of these are slightly older, but still hold a charge well enough. The two on the left are 20,000 plus mAh and have wireless charging options. The middle one's like 12,000. Then the next one over to the right is like 15,000. That's the one I carry in the pouch on my bike. The one on the far right is actually one that is made specifically for my LG phone. I can mount my phone in it. I use that when like I'm hiking or doing stuff away from my bike that will uh, still use power on the cell phone. The small thing on the top is a charger for the two um, GoPro batteries. Some of my equipment does use AA and AAA batteries. For those, I use rechargeable batteries. I try to endeavor to be environmentally friendly, so I don't use the throwaway kind of batteries. I have a good supply of both AA and AAA, so I can go quite a ways without needing to recharge them. But when I do, it's not terribly inconvenient to plug them in if I stay at a hotel or get back home or whatever. So I just thought I'd note that since I had previously noted rechargeable batteries. I'll also be traveling with a laptop and a tablet. I actually bought a new laptop. It's an LG Gram. The one I had, which was lightweight but was showing some signs of age, So I shopped around for a decent laptop for what I needed. That also had good battery life, and I settled on the LG Gram. It's a very lightweight laptop for a keyboard connected device, and it has a Core i7 and I forget, a lot of RAM. Uh, it has up to 12-hour battery life, although I've averaged around 9 hours, still pretty good. So as I'm camping out and such away from power sources for the laptop, I can still get quite a bit done before the battery runs low. So I think I've got a pretty good package for my various computer needs. I'm going to cut back on the amount of discussion regarding my camping equipment. I want to highlight some specific cell phone apps that are useful for cycling and camping and such. So I'm going to cut back on some of the camping equipment and supplies. I do want to highlight what kind of stove that I'll be traveling with. The upper right portion of this photo has the alcohol stove. The one I specifically use is a Trangia Spirit Burner. I just checked on Amazon, and they actually have a wider range of alcohol stoves available compared to when I had purchased this some years ago. I previously noted that I try to be environmentally friendly, so I didn't want to use a regular gas stove. And in researching it, I found you could make your own alcohol stoves out of cans or whatever. And I seem to recall at some point I've actually done that many years ago, but they're flimsy and not convenient to have to make them periodically. So I searched around and finally found this alcohol stove. It uses denatured alcohol, which my research indicates burns a lot cleaner than regular gas in particular, but I think natural gas as well. So I settled on the alcohol stove for cooking. Definitely worth looking into if you're environmentally friendly like me. I want to also note my Sea to Summit self-inflating mat. I'm probably not the only person over 50 who finds camping on the ground or on solid mats to be uncomfortable, probably to put it lightly. So I've experimented with some different self-inflating air mattresses. The Sea to Summit is more expensive. It was like $180, but definitely worth the investment. I've tried two others, and I didn't find them as comfortable as this one. So it is definitely worth the investment. It's also super long. I'm 6'4" or so, so I needed one that had the extra length, and the extra length and the inflated thickness definitely makes this a winner. Okay, let's talk cell phone apps. I won't be covering it comprehensively. That could be an entirely separate video. But I want to touch on a few things, some categories of apps, as well as some specific apps. I noted earlier that I listen to a lot of music. Um, and most of my music are albums, and I have them organized in specific ways. Um, I find that a lot of music players don't really play it play music the way I like to play my music. Um, I like to organize my music in folders and such and play the albums accordingly. So I have found several folder players that basically you can navigate to specific folders and play the songs in order of the folders. Listed on this screen are the folder player apps that I use. I have several because uh, I may want to switch to different categories of music without losing my place in another category, so I can have the different players playing different categories. The Jamendo app plays music from the Jamendo website. Jamendo is a site where people post their music, and for general use, it's free. I've collected a decent amount of good music from Jamendo. FMA is also another site that gives legally free music. And I also have a SoundCloud account. I buy a fair amount of music from SoundCloud. Now, these are also factors why I like to do the folder player. Um, Different sources of music does meta tags differently, as well as different musicians that make their albums available. They don't all do meta tags the same way, and a lot of the regular music players need more consistency with the meta tags. So that's why another reason why I do the folder players. It has gotten so much easier cycling with apps these days. Google Maps has a bike mode. Let me repeat that. Google Maps has a bike mode. I've met several cyclists who weren't aware of that. Uh, in a city the size of Houston, the bike mode in Google Maps has been hugely valuable. It's not perfect, in part because there are some areas of the city where you pretty much have to do the sidewalk, but still, by and large, the bike mode in Google Maps has been really useful. For camping, I have the UC Public Campgrounds. It's listed on the screenshot as UC Public CG. Um, that is a really good app for finding camping areas along your route. Uh, the routes that I've already mapped out, I use the bike mode in Google Maps to find the route and then figure my stopping points by looking in the UC Public CG to see what campgrounds are available. You can click on specific campgrounds get the information on what's available, whether there's showers or not, whether there's water and toilets, what the costs for the campgrounds are, and phone numbers where you can call them to find out if you need to reserve or not, which is often listed in the app as well. The offline maps and navigation is a free tool where you can download state maps and province maps in other countries, so that if you're in an area where Google Maps or the other map apps that require an internet connection don't work because you're in a dead zone, you can use the offline maps and navigation to get around. It doesn't have a bike mode, but it at least will allow you to see where you're going if you don't have an internet connection. The bike map app I use for recording as I go. It would be really cool if Google had this feature, but I haven't seen any option for it yet. So when I want to record a specific ride, I go into the bike map and hit record, and it'll record in the background while I'm riding. You can also navigate by bike map, but I still find the bike mode in Google Maps better for that purpose. But bike map is good for recording specific rides. The cycle map I haven't used too much. It doesn't have a record mode. It's basically just a navigation map. So the three main apps that I use are Google Maps, UC Public CG, and Bike Map. And when needed, the offline maps and navigation. Bike Map also gives you data relating to your average speed and elevation and various stats on the ride. And all this gets saved when you save the recording. I want to keep this under 30 minutes, so I think I'll leave off there. There's obviously a lot of bits of equipment and applications involved with more than a year's worth of touring that I'm planning, but I'll cover more of that during the trip. Speaking of which, my cycling touring begins this Sunday, August 16th. I'm needing to modify it a bit because I'm going to have to return to Houston once or twice. I wasn't originally planning on that. I was planning on going to California by October. I'll probably get to California closer to, well, in the December area and start the Pacific tour at that time. This leg of the trip will include the Midwest. Then I return to Houston, and then after I do a bit of stuff I need to do the end of this month or early next month, I'll be doing a southwestern tour. I want to get over to the Grand Canyon while the weather's still adequate. So I'll be getting all that in during the next couple of months. So stay tuned. Leave any advice or comments as I go. I'd like to make this kind of a community thing, so anyone who would like to collaborate with me, feel free to leave comments and I'll get back with you. Until next time, Get out there.